Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Hoagland and welcome back to another Draft a Day video. As we open our first pack here, we are back to 665 drafts again. My release weekend draft videos are over, and we have a few different cards that are pickable here. We have the Intrepid Conjurer, which is a 2-1 for 1 that when this becomes valorous, it summons a copy of itself. Pretty reasonably powerful card. Could be worth picking up. And for back to 665 when there's more Valor producers in the third pack. That being said, there are two cards I've never passed in this draft format, and Consult the Talons is one of them. I don't think we're about to start now. Just like mobilize, 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 draw 3 cards. Who doesn't want to pay 1 resource and draw 3 cards? Other cards in this pack of note, I feel like the only first pickable cards in this pack are really the Intrepid Conjurer or the Consult the Talons. Nothing else in here is really particularly powerful and worth moving into. I could see an argument being made for Mosh Pit Gladiator, but I feel like this really isn't a reason to move into Blood so much as it's just a quality pickup if you're already in Blood. I guess the Mesa Caretaker could be reasonable if you're looking to force the Conscript deck, but I think Consult the Talons is objectively the most powerful card. So we get past our next pack here. We get a few different quality cards in here. In terms of uncommons, the Monk is just a quality threat in Wild, and Decree of Banishing I think is just like probably the top removal spell in the format. There isn't a ton of constant removal that sees play on the regular, so I think this card is very, very good. That's probably going to be the pick out of this pack. Storm Rider is a very reasonable card if you're already in Diamond, but I think Decree is definitely the pick. If we were picked up a Ruby card for a first card, I might consider Feed the Flames, but I definitely would rather move into Diamond Sapphire as opposed to Ruby Sapphire. The upside to taking the Feed the Flames over the Decree of Banishing is that this cuts the only playable Ruby card out of this pack, but I think the power level of Decree of Banishing is just so much higher, I'd rather draft that. And then we get past another pack that's loaded with goodies. We have another Consult the Talons, we've got a Vigilant Duskwing, a Skyspire Scholar. I don't think either of these two cards are particularly playable. Windborn Ascension is a fine pickup if there's not another better Sapphire card in the pack, but again, never passed to Consult the Talons, and we are not about to start now. Pretty solid start to my favorite archetype of this format. We're not married to Diamond at this point with the Decree of Banishing, but I would really love to play both these Consult the Talons. That is definitely for sure. Hello, Jacob Jeffrey. Would you like to come in here and sit with Dad while we draft? We got 2 Consult the Talons already in 3 picks. It's great. Say Force Daddy's favorite archetype on 100. As far as this pack goes, there's nothing particularly exciting in it in general. None of these 3 cards that are on Shard are worth playing. As far as other powerful cards in the pack, I could pick up this Monk possibly, but double Wild along with 2 cards I have that are already double Sapphire is a little bit tough. As far as other cards in this pack that are reasonable, I think I'm actually going to pick up the Cheap Shot here, because like I said, we're not quite married to this Decree of Banishing, and Cheap Shot's like a reasonable card in Blood. If we get past like an Underworld Officer, we would love to play that, so I'm 10 out of 10 going to go ahead and draft the Cheap Shot here. Oh, your show's paused. Got it. Well, kinda, again, you don't want to move into particular colors just because you got 1 or 2 good cards. You want to try and read the signals and see what's getting passed. There was a lot of good Blood cards in that pack, so there are a couple of good Blood cards, and there's a lot of good Blood cards overall. Next up, Officer, Phoenix Guard Lancer. We're looking for a compelling reason here to move into one of the 2 secondary shards that we've drafted, either the Cheap Shot or the Decree of Banishing. I don't feel like we found a compelling reason in this pack for either of those. There's a Razor Edge Duelist here that's a plenty playable Diamond card, so I wouldn't terribly mind picking that up. If we end up in Diamond, we'll almost certainly play this. That being said, the Grelk is an uncommon that's kind of a powerful bomb at the top end that I would 10 out of 10 end up playing in our deck when we're in Sapphire. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Growl Cup just because we're guaranteed to play it, and it's the only good Sapphire card in the pack. Now, this pack could be a signal that maybe we should move into Wild, potentially. There's a Call of the Deepwood and a Battle Preparations in this pack still, which are both very reasonable cards. Call of the Deepwood conscripts an Ardent or an Underworld troop with cost 5 for 4, and Battle Preparations conscripts a troop with cost 1, but gives it +2/+2. There aren't any good Sapphire, Diamond, or Blood cards this pack. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Call of the Deepwood here, and just kind of, again, spreading out our options for what our second shard's going to be, with being firmly in Sapphire here, trying to figure out what's going around that's open in this draft. As far as this pack is concerned, Outflank is a playable Diamond trick. Target troop gets +2/+4 until end turn. It has Mobilize, so you can outflank by exhausting a troop for only a single resource. Necropolis Garroter is a playable blood card. It's a 2/2 for 2 that Diligence gains lethal until our next turn. Shadowblade Splicer is also a playable card. It's a 3/3 for 3 with Scrounge, so you get something -3/-3, but Scrounge can often be a little bit difficult to enable. I think I'm going to pick up the Garroter here because our curve is a little bit high at the top end already, and if we end up in Blood Sapphire, we're going to want some things for the lower part of our curve here. So we move into this next pack. Man, these packs have been pretty mediocre so far. I think I'm actually going to pick up the Necropolis coins here, or the Wakuna coins. None of these cards are particularly exciting here. Like, the Arachnoglider's, like, close to playable if we're short on playables, but we're definitely playing one of these two coins if we end up in their shards. So right now I've got more blood than anything, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the blood coin. This pack's not great either. This is our first pack coming back around to us, so it might be kind of tough getting playables for the rest of this pack. The Sapphire Favor, I think, is medium. The stun opposing troops with power 1 or less can occasionally fog a Dreadling attack, and interrupt all basic actions is occasionally okay. If you end up in Ada, jumping up 2 charges is decent because it can propel you to 2 more Phantoms a turn or 2 sooner, so you can start beating your opponent down. So there's still a Draka Outcast in this pack, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this Draka Outcast up because we have this Call of the Deepwood, and there was a Battle Preparations that went late in the same pack as the Call of the Deepwood, so it could be very possible that no one's drafting the Wild Conscript cards, and that's something we want to move into to supplement our Sapphire cards. Nothing particularly exciting in here. Never played Verdict of the Ancient Kings in this draft format. If we end up in Wild, we might board in the Shoku's Garden on occasion, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. It's also possible that, like, this top end here with the Consults could end up being, you know, a Sapphire Wild Dreadlings deck, depending on how the next couple packs go. We're kind of all over the place here as of yet. We've got, like, 6 mostly playables in Sapphire Wild and Blood Wild. The Arachnoglider's kind of playable. I don't think the Shriek is very good, or the Spring Renewal, so I guess I'll take the Glider. I guess I could snag the Shriek and hope to, like, get a couple Shrieks and then get a couple Whispers in the third pack. That doesn't seem completely unreasonable. This card's pretty aggressively mediocre. I'm gonna grab the Shriek for now, just in case we end up with 3 to 4 Shrieks. Snarling Brave here is pretty decent at acceleration. Apprentice Earthcaller is also okay in the Wild decks. Tail of Charm I don't think is very good. Stun a random opposing troop. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the Snarling Brave here. Maybe we end up playing that. Our curve's kinda high, so like Snarling Brave could be decent. I'm gonna grab the Relentless Zombie here just in case we end up in Blood and we end up with a few of those, plus we see some Voracious Zombies in pack 3. Just picking up the Dredges here at the end. Grab the Wind's Whim, because if we really end up short on playables, we can play this card. I'm not a huge fan of this in the format in general. Alright, Till the Soil, sure. If we end up in Dreadlings, that could be a card that we play. And pick 17 is... the Maimed Shrieker, a pack filler. Bombs? Bombs? Okay, I think Something Borrowed's actually just the most powerful card in this pack. And, like, I wouldn't mind getting to play this coin that I have here, so if I do this, it's another expensive card, so this puts target opposing card into our hand, so it's like an awkward removal spell, but it also, if we can play their card, lets us play it back out. Something that's completely unreasonable. The only card that's close to pickable in here, I think, other than the Something Borrowed, is the Windborn Ascension's kind of reasonable. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up the rare, though. This is a card that can generate 2-for-1s for us. In this pack, Eager Lackey's very good in the Conscript deck, but I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Web Scribe, just because we're 10 out of 10 playing this card. It's a quality 2-drop in Sapphire. That's a shard we're 100% playing. Whenever we gain a charge, target opposed troop gets -2 power till our next turn. If the Eager Lackey wheels, we might pivot off of the Blood. But we've already got 3 reasonable Blood cards here that I've all not going to be embarrassed to play, so filling out our lower curve with more good Sapphire could be reasonable. Because there was a Lackey and a Battle Prep in there, so like if we picked up the Lackey, we could maybe wheel the Battle Preparation. This pack doesn't have anything. Oh, we've got a... Never mind. We've got a Cerulean Sage here. This card is fantastic. It's everything we're looking for. It's a lower curve threat. 0-3 for 1 that on Diligence gets +2 in Flight until our next turn. So just something that we can play out that's cheap that can help us cast these Consult the Talons with Mobilize. So we have a Battle Preparations here. The on-threshold cards in this pack are Zenthos, Hunger, and Sweep Away. I guess Sweep Away is an okay pickup. Yeah, I'm happy to play this card a lot of the time. Put target troop into its controller's hand and then summon a Broombot, so you get a 2-1. It's a decent tempo play when you've got some bombs. It also provides... It's a spell that provides a troop that we could exhaust to these. As far as this pack goes, nothing terribly exciting for us. The Orbiculon actually might be the pick here. I'm really not a fan of Furious Smasher in general. It's just like a 3-1 for 2, and 1-toughness things don't do well in the format, it feels like. Orbiculon Diligence is into a 4-4, so if you can start attacking with it early, it really starts to hit like a truck. We've got a couple of Diligence enablers already. See, I don't think we have quite enough bombs yet to grab a Tomb Swap, but the Orbiculon could be a reasonable 2 for us. We're still a little bit all over the place, but we got some options here. We're kind of at a point where, like, if we open or get past a Wild Bomb, we could still move in that direction. Callous Carver's a fine uncommon. It's a 1-5 for 4 that Diligence gets +4 in life drain. So, like, once this starts diligencing, it just, like, crushes through people. So, I think I'm happy to pick that up. Chastise in here is a really powerful card, and the fact that it made it 7 picks must have been means there must have been other good diamond cards in this pack, or no one was in those shards. I guess I could just stake the Chastise here. I've been doing a lot of splashing lately on 3rd shards. I'm gonna take the Chastise. Just grab. Maybe we'll try a splash again. I would not hate splashing this Decree and this Chastise. These are just like really quality removals, pieces of removal. We could splash a Mechanized Gem Scout too with the Flight Gem on it. We really don't have a lot of attackers right now. I feel like I really dragged this deck in a lot of different directions. I haven't been very clear with what we've been doing. It's not. I've 2-1'd and 3-0'd with the 2 different Trishard decks I've drafted in this format. So, Inkheart Infuser actually is a mobilize enabler, and it can help fix these resources, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pick this up. There's nothing else in this pack that's particularly exciting, so yeah, I'm just going to grab that. It targets a card in our hand and makes it the thresholds of that card blood. One thing about Diamond being the splash shard as opposed to blood is that we can't play Ada as the champion, but playing Renner is probably fine in this deck. Awakened Herald provides some fixing. It'll be, it requires our splash shard, but it can make blood or sapphires. It's probably reasonable. It's also another 2-drop, so it's probably fine. Up to theoretically 16 playables with the splash here, so it's not completely unreasonable. Another Awakened Herald. There's also a Diamond's Favor here. I think I'm just going to go ahead and pick this up. It's just like a quality removal spell. You can also randomly take out constants on the other side of the board if your opponent's playing a constant champion. Yeah, nothing too exciting in here. I guess I'll grab the Arachnid. We're kind of light on 2/4s and things that come up. We also didn't see any Skyspire Scholars in this pack. We passed one at one point. Can't remember what we grabbed. We definitely passed one. Another Diamond's Favor. I don't know if I'm going to main deck 2 favors, but I will definitely board in the second at some point, most likely. Now that we're in Diamond, I'm going to go ahead and grab this Reversion. I don't know if I'm going to main deck it with Diamond being the splash, but this is definitely a playable card in the format. It undoes combat tricks and stuff like that. I guess we can grab another Eldritch Shriek here, just in case we end up getting a couple Whispers in the next pack. Maybe if we end up with a couple of Whispers, we won't need the diamond cards to fill ourselves out here, but it's feeling like we're gonna need a little bit of help in this pack 3. I'm not quite sure what we can get. Friar Tusk is a fine card to board in against various Dreadlings decks since it's a 2/3 with Life Drain. Grab a Lurker here. Would love a Tinkertron to help fix our thresholds in this pack. Ask and you shall receive. This is kind of on Shard, but I don't think we can afford to play this with it being double diamond. I could potentially be greedy and pick up this Exporsion here, and then just hope the Tinkertron wheels. But I feel like with the splash, I shouldn't be greedy, and I should just grab Mr. Tinks here. He can give you a temporary resource, he can give you a charge, he can give you a threshold of your choice, and then he can generally trade with something. So you have a lot of quality removal here from Sapphire, Chastise, Decree, Banishing, Diamond's Favor. So happy to pick up Tinks to make those things slightly more consistent while we play. Ended up with only one on-shard coin, but it is what it is. It feels good to have a set 5 pack as a third one again. 666 is weird. As far as this pack goes, what do we have going on here? Our on-shard cards are Casualty of War, it's like medium removal. A lot of the big threats that you care about in this format are Ardent or Underworld. That being said, we have like Dusk Scout and Depth Crawler as other on-shard picks, like a Staunch Etherealist. We don't have a ton of Ardent troops, so maybe the Casualty is just the pickup here. I could also see a merit for the Dusk Scout just because like it's a 2-drop, but I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5, 6 2-drops with the Awakened Herald, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the Casualty of War here. Maybe we won't start this in our main deck, but we'll probably board this in at some point. Like our opponent will have like a Gralk or some other large threat that's like a Cloudtail Crusher or something like that that's unaligned troop that we can kill with Casualty of War. We got another Tinkertron here. Yeah, I'm just going to 10 out of 10 pick this up. The extra charges are good too a lot of the time, so the fixing and the charges are both very reasonable. Grimskull Tactician is a very powerful diamond card in this format. Because it's diamond, you're always going to be able to put the Flight on Attack gem in it, but I think we just want to guaranteed get our fixing, and we'll, like, playing a every Tinkertron we can get, basically. In this pack, we have a Taste for Blood that's pretty reasonable. The other thing I'm looking at here is, with how much blood we actually have, is blood going to be the splash and we're just going to end up playing Ada? We always end up on Ada, right? Let's like grab this Bring to Justice here. That seems completely unreasonable. So if I grab the Bring to Justice, and we cut this, and we cut the Inkheart Infuser, we like splash the Something Borrowed and the Cheap Shot off of like a coin, an Awakened Herald, and a couple of Tinkertrons, maybe one Blood Shard. I could see that. I could see that working out for us. I need a few more playables out of this pack if that's going to be the plan. Gust Mage is probably a plenty fine pickup. It helps mobilize our Consult the Talons in the mid to late game, which is nice. The other thing that's nice about having these Tinkertrons and like the Awakened Herald and stuff is that our Something Borrowed is more likely to be able to randomly play the thing we're picking up. An important thing to note is that unlike a lot of the cards in this game, like Renner and Relentless Corruption, that when you steal their card, it changes their thresholds. Something Borrowed does not change the thresholds of the cards you're taking, so you're going to have to actually be able to make the thresholds in order for the cards you take to be playable. So our deck full of splashes probably wants this Primal Prism. It's like 10 out of 10 wants the Primal Prism. This can give us a threshold of our choice or a charge. So if we have all of our thresholds, it can just give us a charge. These other powerful cards that I want to splash, like a random wild card. Playing the Call of the Deepwood might not be awful, honestly. This card's just like a super powerful bomb. Just like get a random 5-drop. Just play the old 5 threshold monstrosity here. Just never play any of our cards on time. We'd like 2 more playables, but we're playing with most of the thresholds at this point, so we're probably not going to have a hard time getting 2 more playable cards out of this pack. Our curve's pretty reasonable down here, which is nice. We don't need double Sapphire until we get to our very top end here. Man, this pack's kind of poop. Forgotten Forge isn't really what we're looking for. We're not really looking to give our cards rage. Savage Stomper is way off base. Adamantine War Priest, we don't produce any Valor, so that's not particularly good. We're not playing a Livid Buffalo. Vile Strain can make Dreadlings, I guess, as a 5/5 defensive. That doesn't seem great. A 2/5 for 4 is just a horrible rate. I guess I'll take this Cavern Sentry because it's a Dreadling enabler. Maybe cut someone off of that. This pack's not particularly exciting either. I think the Duskwing Priest is probably objectively the best card in the pack. I guess I could move this Revision into the main deck here if we're going to be more diamond based than blood based. Originally I was going to play it in the main because we were more blood based and we weren't able to play this consistently, but if we're planning to try and play Bring to Justice with some consistency, Revision is fine. This pack, there's an Eldritch Whisper. I don't remember how many of those other ones of those we saw. So this is a 4/4 for 5 that if you have the Eldritch Shriek, it'll make this cheaper, and then you just get to straight up draw a card. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the Whisperer for now, and maybe we'll end up working those in here once we take a look at everything that we have at the end. We get a couple of those. We've got 2 Shrieks and a Whisperer, so maybe if we get one more Whisper, we'll move in on that plan. I haven't actually done that before. Nothing particularly exciting in this pack either. I guess I'll grab a Cleansing Touch. This is similar to Reversion, only it costs twice as much. But if you're reverting your own card, it can create a Valor and put it into your hand, which is not an irrelevant text. Sapper's Wallbuster is like okay removal. It's also randomly reach. And more importantly, it's also shardless. So if we're having like shard issues, it's a card that's playable guaranteed. Yep, nothing too exciting in here. I'll grab the Ashbane Gargoyle. It's like kind of Cryptate. Can cleanse the tombs to void your opponent's crypt or take flight. Yeah, getting to just the ends of the pack here. War Rider is the most playable card in there. It's not on shard by any means, but it's definitely playable. So if I want to fit into... Ooh, I think we're actually in the market to play a Patrol Bot. It's like a 2-1 flight for 2. I think it gets kind of better than the Duskwing Priest, and it's shardless, which is nice. Just need to cut one more card from here somewhere. We got 23 playables right now in the main deck. Probably the Sapphire's Favor is not very good. So, do I want to fit the Shrieks in? I feel like I don't at this point. How many troops do I have here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4... 5 at 2 or less, and then 1, 2, 3. I guess Arachnid's not particularly good. Could see cutting the Arachnid and bringing the Duskwing Priest back in. This deck feels decidedly mediocre. We're gonna go ahead and grab Ada for the champion here. Double check all of our costs. Yeah, this is probably like how many diamonds here? Probably 8, and then 7 of these, and then 1 extra blood. So I've got 1, 2, 3 blood, and this is a 4th blood. This is 5, 6 blood. Yeah, that's probably fine. I've only got 2 blood cards. I've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so these thresholds are probably functional. The Mechanized Gem Scout's going to get flight on attack here. One of the more interesting decks to build that we've put together recently. Kind of Sapphire Diamond-y. I could see an argument for like not playing the cheap shot and the Something's Borrow, but like I've got the Necropolis coins and I picked the Tinkertrons anyway, so I feel like it's worth playing those powerful cards because like the average power level in this deck isn't super high, it doesn't feel like. It's probably worth having a couple of cards that can like go over the top of our opponent kind of. Let me know where this draft went wrong. I feel like I read something incorrectly at some point to end up in the direction that we did. At any rate, my name is Jeff Hoagland. Thanks for hanging out and watching our Draft Today video today. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, to like it on YouTube and share it on your social media. There's lots of other ways you can support my content as well, such as supporting our sponsor, Hex Primal there. They are a site that buys and sells Hex TCG singles, and if you're going to buy some cards anyways, you can do it from them with the code Jeff5 to save 5% on your order and also support myself. You can also subscribe on Twitch for $4.99 a month or become a patron on Patreon, and there's links for details on all of those in the video description below. Thanks for hanging out, folks, and tomorrow I'll be back with another Draft a Day.